the rise of the exciting whites in sports, from Cooper Flagg to Caitlin Clark to Cooper DeJean to Matt McClung. Anyway, Skip Bayless had something interesting to say about how white players have enhanced their games because of the excellence of black athletes. Play the clip.
These players are doing things white players haven't been able to do in a long time. I have constantly pointed out that black players in football and especially in basketball have consistently proven to be, for the last 50 odd years, generally better than white players. Hasn't bothered me a bit that the NBA I have fanatically loved has been as high as 80% black players. Hey, if black players are the best players, I just wanted to see them play. I certainly never needed equal representation for white American players. I don't want to make too much of it, but I always say what I see without fear, and this is what I'm seeing right now. This hit me late Saturday night after I watched Mac McClung win his third straight NBA dunk contest. Unbelievable. And I started thinking about what Caitlin Clark is doing in women's basketball and what Cooper Flagg is doing in men's college basketball and what Cooper DeJean is doing at cornerback in the National Football League. We are suddenly seeing things from white athletes that 5 years ago I would have bet a lot of money against. It just seems like the long-term greatness of black athletes has forced some white athletes to just evolve, to literally rise up or fall by the wayside. I love that. Me personally, I think this is great for sports.
What do you think of Skip Bayless's theory there, Steve?
Well, Skip, you're still invited to the cookout. With that said, I don't disagree with much. I don't think it was that big of a deal, but I don't disagree with them really at all. It's something that we've said for a very long time. I remember there was a great story that Larry Bird basically developed his game during his hiatus in between Indiana and Indiana State. He would play with a lot of black players on a playground where he was working, and that's how he developed his game. There's a great story. One time they lined up, and he went over to a player and said, "This is an insult. Tell your coach, do not have a white guy guard me. We're not doing this." He thought it was an actual insult. But, there have been other great white dunkers. There's been Tom Chambers, who was actually one of the best ever at it. Brent Berry won the title, I think, in 95. That must have been a down year, right? And it is true there have not been a lot of white cornerbacks the last 30 years. There's Jason Sehorn. There's been a couple of I remember Scott Case was one late in his career with the Cowboys, won a Super Bowl. But I do wonder, do white athletes now say we have to be specifically better and more athletic because of black players? Or are they just getting more year-round training that enhances their athleticism? I think that's the question that I would have.
You need to go to the bathroom, go. Steve, I think you're wrong, and I think Skip Bayless is wrong, and I said this yesterday. And by the way, I want to shout out former Ball State white cornerback Jesse Neal. He played a lot of nickel for us in the 80s. Yeah, Jesse Neal, white corner for Ball State.
80s.
On a very good 1988 team that started out 6-0. Anyway, on a more serious note, Steve, this is about two-parent homes. Two-parent homes produce superior product, period, end of story. Bitcoin isn't going anywhere, so why not start stacking some today? The Fold app gives you Bitcoin rewards when you buy gift cards. At Amazon, Uber, DoorDash, and Home Depot, over 50 national merchants. Go to foldapp.com/Whitlock right now, or scan the QR code on your screen. New users get a Bitcoin bonus with their first gift card purchase. Start earning Bitcoin rewards today. Fold app. In sports, there's so much money in sports that parents are now like, hey, my kid can get a scholarship, my kid can get name, image, and likeness money, my kid could make it to the pros, and there's generational wealth in there where parents are like even more invested in the development of their kids as athletes, and because they see that big pot of gold at the end of that rainbow. And in order to properly support a kid with all the travel that goes along with AAU basketball, that goes along with baseball travel teams, that go along with 7-on-7 skills deal in football. You need two parents. It's not a single mama situation. And when you start running Christians out of sports and it becomes super secular, all those Christians that thought, hey, I'm going to get into coaching as part of my ministry, as part of my give back to the poor community, there's less of that. I believe if we looked at the data, there's less than that. And more of the burden falls on parents. And two parents are in a much better position. Two parents married, a couple is in much better position to shepherd their child through the developmental process of sports. And that's why you're seeing the rise of white athletes, because more of them come from two-parent homes. That's what I think is happening.
But Jason, haven't they been most of them or a lot of them been two-parent home for the past 35, 40 years? I would say to your thesis or hypothesis, maybe they're getting more year-round training. Okay, so they have resources. Yeah. I don't know how many kids are now playing multi-sports. I don't think that's really a thing like it used to be. But I think the specialization has also in dovetailing with the training and then the resources. I get it, but again, they've had two-parent white households for years, right? And it's been kind of like there's always been that stereotypical smart, heady white athlete. I think what Skip is saying is the explosive, twitchy one. That's the point, though, isn't it? Guys who play
it all comes from training. I got it, but it comes from training, and you can enhance those things through training. And so, Steve, you're around my age. In order to be an elite football player in my age group, you had to be willing to walk, ride a bicycle, or drive to the high school and participate in the off-season activities we had going on at the high school. In order to be an elite athlete now, you have to be, we're traveling to Ohio for a 7-on-7 competition. We're traveling to Chicago for a baseball tournament. We're traveling to Las Vegas for AAU basketball, having paid. And again, my friends that are watching or follow this show, I'm not complaining, but holy cow, have I paid for some AAU teams and friends of mine and their sons to go out and compete in AAU basketball all over the country. I done spent a lot of money financing that stuff for friends of mine and their kids. The expense and the necessariness of having two parents that can support all that. And then the desire in terms of because there were some people was like, well, it requires all that. I'm going to tap out. I'm not going to take it that serious. Well, now the parents are. I can give you a great example. It was like Jeff George made a lot of money in the NFL, does well. I can remember when he had two sons. Both of them went on to be starting quarterbacks at our high school and won state championships and ended up getting football scholarships. But it was very important to Jeff George, and I can remember him saying, sons didn't make it to the NFL, but one son started some games at quarterback at Illinois, and the other was on Alabama's football team for a brief time. But I can remember Jeff saying, man, you know how much money there is in the NFL now and how much these quarterbacks make? Of course I'm going all in on the development of my sons. And so Jeff and his wife and their mom, Teresa, they were all in on their two sons' athletic careers because these are wealthy people, but they could see between scholarship and if somehow one of them gets lucky and makes it to the NFL, there's so much money to be made. And so they were all in on the development. I just think it requires more attention from parents and more money from parents to reach the elite level of athletics consistently.
Okay. I have nothing to add. I really just, okay.
Don't miss a second of Fearless. Hit that like button and subscribe to keep up with our latest content.